Okay, in this explainer, we're going to tackle a really critical challenge in high-volume hiring, one that's honestly misunderstood a lot of the time. We'll be looking at this through the lens of insights from CX25WW, a platform that was actually built to solve this exact problem. And this isn't just some abstract corporate issue. It affects pretty much anyone who's ever applied for a job at a big company.
So let's just dive right in. When you think about a massive company hiring thousands of people a year, what comes to mind? Probably a slow, clunky, maybe even broken machine, right? That's what most of us think. But what if that inefficiency we all talk about isn't actually the real problem?
The source material we're digging into makes a very bold claim. It says enterprises don't fail at hiring. Now that probably sounds completely backward. I mean, with all the horror stories we hear about the hiring process, that statement really forces you to stop and think. Are we even looking at the right problem?
Right. So if successfully filling thousands and thousands of roles every single year isn't failure, then what is? This is where the whole conversation shifts. It turns out the real issue isn't about the ability to get people in the door, it's about the predictability of who you're hiring.
And that leads us directly to the core idea of this whole explainer, the predictability problem. See, this isn't about the logistics of recruitment. It's about what happens after the contract is signed and the new hire starts on Monday.
Here's the central argument. They fail at predictability. What this means is that large organizations often struggle to consistently and accurately identify which candidates will actually be successful and perform well in the long run.
So what do we mean by predictability? Well, it's really about forecasting success. It's the ability to know, with a pretty high degree of confidence, that the person you're hiring today is going to be a great performer 6 months or a year from now. It's about moving from just hoping you made the right choice to building a system that reliably spots future stars.
This really breaks down the difference perfectly. On one side, you have the old way, traditional hiring. It's all about speed and cost. Metrics like time to fill. The main question is, did we fill the role? Is the seat warm? But on the other side, you have predictability. And it asks a much, much deeper question. Did we hire the right person? The entire focus shifts from just getting it done to getting it right.
And this point is just so crucial. We have to move away from thinking about this as just filling a box on an org chart. The real goal has to be ensuring that the person who gets that role is the one who is genuinely set up to succeed, to innovate, and to bring real value to the team.
So the big question is, how do you actually build this predictability into your process? The solution is what's called an evaluation-first approach, and it basically flips the traditional model on its head. First, you start by defining what success actually looks like in that role, with objective, clear criteria. Then, and this is the real game changer, you evaluate a candidate's skills first. You assess their actual ability to do the work, completely separate from their resume. Only the people who can demonstrate they have the necessary skills move on to an interview. This is huge, because it means you're only spending that valuable interview time with people you already know are qualified. And finally, the hiring decision is made based on that objective performance data, not just a gut feeling or who you liked better.
Now, the impact of doing things this way is pretty profound. For employers, you get a much higher quality of hire because you're vetting for real skills, not just resume keywords. You also save a ton of time and money because your teams aren't stuck in endless interviews with people who can't actually do the job. For candidates, especially students and recent grads, it creates a much fairer, less biased process where what you can do matters more than where you went to school. And at the end of the day, all of this leads to way better retention. Because when you put the right person in the right role, they're happier, they're more productive, and they're far more likely to stick around.
But let's talk about the flip side. What's the real risk of ignoring predictability? Well, for big companies, the danger is really subtle because the sheer volume of hiring can actually hide some very deep problems.
Just imagine a company that makes over 5,000 hires in a single year. That scale is just immense. And with that much activity, it's pretty easy to look at the numbers and assume the whole machine is running just fine. I mean, the roles are getting filled, so the process must be working, right?
Well, here's the critical warning. Volume hides risk until it doesn't. That constant churn of new hires can create this dangerous illusion of success, all while masking some systemic weaknesses that are quietly growing right under the surface.
And this is how that risk just quietly builds up. It starts with the pressure to fill roles fast, so quality takes a back seat to quantity. A few mismatched hires here and there, they just get written off as one-offs, not a sign of a bigger problem. But over time, the organization slowly accumulates what you could call performance debt, this invisible burden of underperforming employees. And that debt always comes due, usually when the market takes a turn or a crisis hits. And that's when a company suddenly discovers that the performance gaps are widespread and the foundation isn't nearly as strong as they thought.
So let's bring all this together. We've really walked through a powerful idea here that should fundamentally change how we think about hiring, especially when we're talking about hiring at scale.
So, if you take away just a few things, let it be these. First, real success in enterprise hiring is not about filling seats. The actual goal is predictability, being able to consistently find the right person for the job. An evaluation-first model is a practical way to build that predictability right into your process. And finally, remember that high-volume hiring without a focus on predictability is just creating a hidden systemic risk that will eventually surface.
And that leaves us with one really important question to ponder. Whether you're running a company, managing a team, or you're a candidate getting ready to apply for your first job, this question gets to the very heart of the matter. How predictable is the hiring process that you're part of? Answering that question honestly, well, it could change everything.